Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mini Metro. This time I'm going to be attempting the hook turn achievement in Melbourne, which is deliver 1000 passengers in Melbourne with at least one station connected to all lines. Which is kind of really interesting in the sense that it's like when I have a new line, I need to remember to keep it connected to a station. Now, I'm actually doing this post commentary, so I'm just going to point out that I made one small mistake, which I will point out in the video, which actually resulted in my not getting the achievement. But even though I fixed the mistake within a couple of seconds, it was enough to sort of not get the achievement on my GOG Galaxy account, which is kind of a shame, which means I kind of need to do it all over again. But nevertheless, I still recorded this, and I thought, you know, I may as well just do some commentary, just offer some tips, offer some advice, and you know, just some insight for those looking to actually attempt this achievement and, you know, might be a bit stuck. So the first thing that came to mind was like, okay, I need to pick one station where I want all the lines to go through, and for the most part from previous experience, I just found that it was just easier to, well, the square station usually ended up being the one that ended up being like, how do I say it? It's like the square station is rarer than the others, so it makes sense for all the lines to be connected to the square station, so that like all the square customers had at least something to go through on the same train line. Now I'm just noticing that my capturing application did not capture the cursor, which is maybe a good or bad thing, but it's a bit hard to say, because I noticed in my other videos my cursor was showing up as some weird missing no blotch, which was probably a bit annoying. But yeah, so here I'm just gonna speed it up a little just so that I can actually have a shorter video and that we can actually just start to see things going a little. So really, the main thing that in having one station connected to all lines means that we can still pretty much pick everything else. But we just had to be, the main thing we have to be careful about is that with every new line, we've got to connect it to the one station that we designated that should be connected to all lines, and that's sort of the one slip up I did. So at the end of this week, I was deciding between the line and carriage, and I decided to opt for carriage because I didn't really think like I would need another line. And the other thing is that needing another line to connect to the square also meant that I might need more bridges or tunnels, which I didn't have at the moment. So it was definitely much easier to sort of just take another carriage, just ease up on the train and moving things around. And so here was the problem I was dealing with. I was just thinking, okay, you know, maybe I should. Yeah, that's right. This was the mistake I made that led to my not getting the achievement, which I quickly fixed and still ended up doing fairly well. But yeah, it's kind of a shame that I sort of just not got the achievement in the end. So, but yeah, as I said before, if you counted the whole thing before that, and I will just spoil it for the end, that I did get a pretty high score at the end. So yeah, it was still 1000 passengers with all stations connected to with all lines connected to one station, but yeah, just for that one small slip up just led to my not getting the achievement. So I would just probably do it in my spare time. So yeah, the main part with this is that with every new line you probably need a bridge or tunnel, and for the most part you can see at the moment that most of them are not quite connected in loops, which sort of just irritated me a little, but I soon sort of just got over it really. So it's the end of week 4, and I'm deciding between line and carriage, and for the same reason, in that I didn't have any bridges, I just decided to opt for carriages. The other reason I opted for carriages in week 3 was that you can see as I've added it to the orange line, I was noticing that the orange line was getting fairly long. So I was thinking that, you know, having more carriage space is just good for just moving stuff around, just having more capacity, just to have a bit more flexibility as well. The other thing I sort of inadvertently ended up doing, which actually ended up being a great benefit, was that like say if you look at the dark green line, for example, I've got trains going in opposite directions, and I think that was one thing I sort of realized that when I was just playing this challenge was that you can actually control the direction of a train that sorry, this should be trams. You can actually control the initial direction of the tram that you want to go, so I'm a bit annoyed that I did not realize that sooner. So, but at least I know now, and what I realized later on, and you will eventually realize later on, is that having trams or trains going in opposite directions on the same line makes stuff a lot easier in terms of just moving stuff around, because then it's sort of diverting the attention along the line as well. So here again, I picked the carriage for the exact same reason, and we really don't seem to be having much congestion issues. I think it's because the fact that I was choosing carriages over additional lines meant that I could pretty much allocate the extra trams, the extra carriages to the lines that needed it the most. So, I mean, you can see with the allocation there, I've just sort of allocated more trams and more carriages to the lines that I thought needed it the most. So I guess the general rule of thumb there is that, you know, if a line's getting fairly long, maybe about 6 or 7 stations, you probably want 2 trains, or maybe 1 train with the carriage on it. So here with the green and with the pink, they're sort of just being extended a little beyond the control. Well, sorry, extended a little more than I am comfortable with, but definitely I was looking forward to having more bridges, having more tunnels in order just to complete the loops. And the other thing I sort of realized is that maybe loops aren't as much of a big deal as I thought they would be, but I guess because I was so used to doing loops before, it just gave me a sense of comfort just to be able to loop stations. But yeah, after doing this challenge, I realized maybe they're not as much of a big deal, but to me, yeah, it's still something I'll eventually need to experiment with. But for now, it's still a try, touch and go sort of thing. So here I inadvertently added a carriage to the wrong to the wrong tram, and actually I've never really had a third carriage on a tram before. So, and I guess right now I've never really needed it. So it would be interesting to actually come across situations where having a third carriage or having a tram plus 2 carriages would be useful, because right now I've never really needed it, and I'm not saying that it's not necessary. It's just that in the way I've played things so far, I've just never found a need or use for it. So at the moment, there is some congestion happening at the end of the dark green lines, but again, so far everything looks fairly fine and dandy. There's nothing to worry with, and we've sort of just stuck to 4 lines and seem to be doing fairly well, to be honest. Like I said before, having an additional line means that we also need to deal with the stress of adding that line to the central station in which we designate all lines to pass through as the requirement of this achievement. So our light green line is getting a bit expanded, and certainly I would like to allocate some additional resources, so let's hope I actually do that in the following week. So for the same reason again, I just ended up picking... What did I end up picking? I picked the line. Or the carriage. Yes, that's right, I picked the carriage. And so what we can see in the and I'm not quite sure where I ended up allocating this one, but this is... I do apologize for not capturing the mouse cursor there before, but yeah, so it looks like I ended up allocating that to the orange line, which is certainly a bit worrying, but nevertheless it still ended up working out fairly well in the end. One thing to note is that the diamond station is certainly sort of just having a bit of congestion sort of in the middle bottom, sort of like between the square and triangle station, because the diamond station can only be reached by the pink line. So again, that was one of the things I was just sort of looking at and trying to figure out, okay, how do some of these more unique customers get deposited at certain stations? And then here we got a football station that just spawned, in which I just attached to the pink line, and again that can create some additional issues in the sense that the square and the triangle station in the middle can get a lot of congestion, because the orange train is basically dropping off passengers that can only be carried through the pink line, and we can already see some congestion happening on the pink line. So here we finally get some bridges, and I'm really happy because now I can churn out my loops. So I do that with the pink line, I do that with the dark green line, and I'm feeling much more comfortable. But, you know, that's right, that's the other thing. I realized that now that I actually have a loop going, I thought I would just attach the dark green line to the Pentagon station, because again, the Pentagon station is a unique station. So, and as with unique stations, you kind of want maybe more than one line going to them if possible, because that will sort of just help movement. That will help prevent movement from being congested by other trains dropping off customers going to that unique station. That was a bit of a mouthful, but at the moment I do not quite know how to express it any better. So and we've broken 1,000 already, so which means that we pretty much achieve our achievement. So hook turn, deliver 1,000, yeah. So, as you can see from the full length of the video, I've actually gone much further, because I was just like, hey, you know what the hey, I'm doing fairly well. May as well keep going, just see how long this lasts. So, to be honest, there's really not much else I can say now that I've achieved the achievement, but I can still sort of just keep on commentating about the whole general thing, and maybe if I can recall my thoughts from back then. Certainly the dark green line sort of being stretched along a bit more than what I'm comfortable with. There is some congestion happening in the top right areas of the pink line, which is starting to be a bit worrying at that point. And and to remedy that, I decided to add another carriage, and then with the green line as well, I just decided to add another tram and sort of just adjust the direction of the tram, which I seem to be rather indecisive about, but eventually settled on something. So it's worth noting that the 3 circle stations on the top right of the pink line, something I pointed out before, which is not all that great, because you kind of want to have an sort of an even distribution of stations. So it's like you kind of want the station to be sort of like circle, triangle, squares, different shape. But if you have like a bunch of circle stations like in tandem, like as you can see on the right edge on the pink line, it creates a bit of a problem with congestion, especially if you don't have trains with the appropriate capacity in order to carry the passengers who are waiting at those stations. So we're still stretching out the green lines a little, and our orange line still remains unconnected, although I don't recall if it actually is connected or not. The square and triangle stations in the middle are still getting a bit of congestion, because mostly the diamond passengers, which can only be connected to the pink line, were being deposited there. But now I'm aiming to remedy that by attaching the orange line to both of them, so that would definitely make things a bit easier. It's now the end of week 10 or the start of week 10, I'm not actually sure, but as like before, I just ended up aiming for an additional carriage, because I felt the stress of trying to... I guess at the moment I didn't really think... I wasn't thinking like, oh, I should get a new line to help move some stuff around. It was more like, if I get a new line, I have to try and attach it to the square statue in some way or other, and that would just really hamper the achievement itself. But I suppose by then it didn't really matter, because I got a new achievement, because when I think about it now, having the extra line would have helped a lot in sort of the outer area with the pink line, as you can see in the bottom right, because it's sort of just this long winding place on its own, and which is very liable for a lot of passengers to stack up and for the pink line to get congestion and cause problems essentially. One thing I'm seeing a bit of congestion on is the cross station, in which, like before, the cross station is only on the pink line, which means that we're going to get congestion at the point where other trains are going to be dropping off the cross passengers on stations where the pink line is connected. And I've just extended the orange line up to the top left, which makes it a bit more difficult to actually connect. But at least at the end of week 11 or the start of week 11, I still need to figure that out. I got 2 more bridges, which I suppose at this point it's not really all that useful, but you know, I guess it didn't really matter by then. So, but yeah, with these stations spawning up in the top corner, I was able to put those bridges to use, and at least have things still continue fine and dandy. So with that station spawning up there, obviously I had to readjust the pink line a little. I should have reordered the stations. I should have reordered the circle stations a little more, but again, in the top right of the pink line, 4 circle stations in the right, 5 circle stations in the right if you include the one at the bottom right. That's just not great at all. But thankfully, we're having trains going in having trams going in separate directions that just really help deal with the congestion. And so, one of the things I also learned when doing this was that when you want to move trains, what happens is that the train that you choose to move will deposit all its customers at the nearest station, then move immediately to the spot that you wanted to drag it to. So this actually ends up helping a lot in terms of micromanagement and sort of just dealing with stations that are really congested, because it was like at this stage I could basically just drag a train with a carriage close to that station and deal with the congestion as it comes. So things are getting a bit frantic now. I've already broken 2,000, and this is just at the stage where I'm just gonna sit back and I'm just like, yep, this is it. Not gonna bother anymore. So yeah, I only now bother to get a 5th line, and which is really in the end ended up not being all that useful, because all the congestion was happening outside the area. So with that, I should be losing fairly soon, or not. Yeah, I was gonna say. So yeah, so hopefully this was just a bit helpful in sort of giving you a few tips in dealing with the hook turn achievement. So it's kind of just like keep the lines restricted and sort of as usual adjusting as necessary. Maybe you don't have to complete those loops. So, but yeah, so with that, hopefully this video was useful to you. And with that, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.